I'm Gab. He's Jules. Blue skies over Berlin because it's semifinal time, Jules. Hyped and amped as ever. We've got Holland against England, France against Spain. We're going to start with France against Spain as we sit here in Scaling Spaces, the co-working space on the banks of the river Spree here in Kreuzberg in Berlin.
Yep.
All right, Jules, let's rewind a little bit. France getting past Portugal, Spain getting past Germany. Start with Spain against Germany. Some people said early final and everything. Certainly had a ton of drama.
Yeah.
Did the more deserving team win?
I'm not so sure. I thought it was a
Says
really
the man in the
game.
Germany shirt.
No,
by the
but
way.
because
I
this is a Mario Götze show. Yeah, I love that game. I have to say, even if it started slowly, which we expected, and both teams were kind of like looking at each other and saying, like, I don't want to
Probing, I
give,
think is the word you're
don't
looking
give
for.
too much, etc., which we expected. The second half was much better than the drama, obviously, of the late goal from Mikel Merino on the pitch where his dad scored 30 years before. Amazing, same goal celebration, fantastic. But in the end, as you often say, Gabi, those games at that kind of stage and level are just won on little details, and that one went Spain way. It could have easily gone German way.
Little details, two big details that some people. I mean, I agree with you. First of all, this could have gone either way. I thought, some people complain these games can sometimes be tight. I thought in the end there were a lot of chances on both sides. There were mistakes which opened the game up, but Germany really, really annoyed. Nagelsmann very annoyed with the officiating. Now, Anthony Taylor was in charge. Two things annoyed me, maybe not the same things. One is, let's get this out of the way, the handball decision, Cucurella off of the Musiala shot.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you have to know the instructions that were given to the referees.
Yeah.
So we've had so many pundits saying, "Oh no, look, if the ball's out, then somebody hits the somebody's arm is out, somebody kicks the ball against the arm. Why is it a penalty? Blah blah blah. Stupid penalty, soft." But then some people feel that they've come to expect those penalties. Before the tournament, UEFA clarified, explained to the referees that if the guy's arm is behind him, which it was, obviously not behind his body, but spatially behind him. It was pointed down. He was bringing it back in. These penalties should not be given because they're what the Spanish call penaltitos. Do you accept this?
Yeah, I understand. It's the rule. And to be fair, the referees and his VAR people, everyone, he moved on very quickly. So you knew there was clearly an instruction, and they knew he felt in that case.
Yeah, listen, you people have to agree, right? You either say these are penalties or these are not penalties.
Yeah.
So many people have had backlash against this. The whole where's he supposed to put his arm brigade? Okay, fine. Then these penalties aren't going to be called. I just want consistency going forward, one way or the other. I think it's what most fans want. Speaking of consistency, I thought I would have been a heartbreaker, but Toni Kroos on Pedri, I don't like this whole you mustn't spoil the game thing. I thought that was wrong. I thought that was maybe it wasn't malicious.
No.
But that is a yellow card every day of the week.
Yeah.
And in fact, given he got one later, given how the game unfolded, he might have been sent off. It certainly affected the game, Spain losing a key player like that.
Absolutely. So early in the game as well. Although Dani Olmo did really well replacing Pedri. But yes.
France against Spain. France against Portugal even. All right, I'm going to come on and say this. I ran into you 1 o'clock in the morning afterwards. You got back to the hotel. I even asked your son what the expected goals was. Didn't surprise me. Portugal high expected goals. Yeah. I thought Portugal deserved to go through in this. I'm sorry. Based on what we actually saw.
Based on nothing. If Camavinga scored that chance, Cristiano has a big one. There's one for Vitinha. Bruno's shot should be more in the bottom corner, but it was not. Mike made a good save. I think this one could have gone either way. I don't think one deserved to qualify more than the other. Not France, not Portugal.
I think Portugal did more, and they did more despite the elephant in the room, which is the Cristiano performance. Listen, I'm not saying Cristiano's done. He had a great season in Saudi. But at this age, you have to use him properly. I don't think Roberto did that. I don't think he should have left him out there for 120 minutes.
Definitely not.
I don't think that's helping the team. And if anything, if I were Portuguese, I'd feel, oh my God, the other bits of the team, most of them did so well in this game. We had so many chances against, probably the best team in Europe. And yet, there's something missing, and it's Cristiano because
I agree.
He's just not in a good moment right now.
I agree. I think this tournament showed that at almost 40, this is it. There's just he can't do it anymore on that stage.
I don't want to say this is it, Jules,
This
because
is
he
it,
scored.
Gab. It's
He scored a ton of goals in Saudi.
But
He scored a
but
ton of goals.
don't talk to me about Saudi level with this international level. This is not the same. He scored loads in qualifiers against team I would have scored
Yeah,
against.
it's international level where Romania get to the knockout round and win their group or whatever. I don't think it's that. I think it's just this is not a good period for him. And sometimes strikers suffer droughts. And you as a coach, you have to do a good job of reading the situations and making those decisions, even tough decisions. All right, Jules, let's continue with this transport. Then we're going to cycle back to Spain, Germany. Then we're going to try to put on our Stuart Robson's hats and try to preview how the semifinal might go.
Yeah.
I have to start with this. And look, I am not picking on Forrest Gump stroke Didier Deschamps.
Forrest Gump, you said.
Yeah.
What's Forrest Gump?
Forrest Gump.
No, but why Deschamps Forrest Gump?
So Forrest Gump is somebody who... Come on, you know the Forrest Gump
No, I know who Forrest Gump is. I can't see the link between Forrest Gump and Deschamps.
is when you keep advancing without having any clue what the hell's going on.
What?
Because honestly, in this game...
Deschamps has no clue.
Okay, well, no, please, let's go through the Deschamps clues, right? So, I'll just ask you some questions,
Yeah,
and you be the judge advocate for Deschamps, right? Okay. So let's start with. I need to make a change up front. So he's already made the change where he's decided that I need more defensive midfielders because. Just because I like to be even more defensive than I have been, despite the fact that they're not scoring any goals from open play or whatever. I'm not going to bore you with the stat because I think it's silly, but I will. 2 own goals and 1 penalty, yeah? This is the reality for 5 games of football from probably the most talented team of the tournament, right? So your solution then is to put on more defensive midfielders.
More than when? More than when?
Well, more than, for example, when you had...
He played as many defensive midfielders against Portugal and against Belgium the round before.
Right, but not in the group stage, right?
The last
so in the group stage, you had 2 defensive midfielders. You had Griezmann, you had Thuram, Mbappe, and Deschamps, right?
So the last...
Deschamps, Dembele, right? You had 4 attacking players, right? Then your solution now is, let me add Chouameni, let me take out Dembele, right? And then on top of that, but plus obviously Camavinga for Rabiot when he's suspended, right? And then on top of that, let me take out Thuram, who's good, and put on Colomwani, who's not good, right? But runs around even more than Thuram, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking to myself, what would you keep moving further and further back on the pitch? And the solution here, the impact, as I see it, is when Antoine Griezmann has a bad game, as he did in this game, when he's not influencing things, Antoine Griezmann is basically becomes your own sole source of creativity. Not because the players around him can't do it, because many of them can, but because you've taken them all off and replaced them with other people and then instructed them to just defend and keep the ball. Am I reading this incorrectly?
No, he tried something with Griezmann as a 10, in a diamond midfield that didn't work. But because he didn't play any wingers, you're right, the creativity had to come from there. Or maybe one of the fullbacks, but this is more...
But look at the impact Dembele had when he came on. All of it, Dembele comes on, he scares the pants off you. And, people say, Dembele, end product, can't finish. I don't really care. Dembele is so disruptive when he comes
100%.
on that everybody else goes and craps themselves. I don't know if there is an impact sub you can make in the world, but then don't have him as an impact sub. Have him start because he's better than...
No, I agree with you. I think he should have started. Certainly at halftime, he was crying out for him or Barcola or Coman. I don't know, whoever, one of those kind of profile. Because
Coman, I'm assuming, isn't fit because I haven't seen the guy.
No, he's fit. It's just yeah. I mean, he went back with his wife for the birth of the baby, and but he came back. He only left for like 2 days, like Foden did. So yeah, but he chose something different. He wanted a very narrow block against Portugal, and but where I disagree with you in the sense that he has a clue. This is what he wants. This is his style. But he will always go for the more defensive approach than for anything else with the ball. So when Griezmann played wide against Belgium, that was simply to help Koundé with defending on Doku. So the priority was clearly the defensive strength more than anything else with the ball. And Griezmann on the right, I don't really care. Will he be involved with the ball? Not so much. But it doesn't matter because without the ball, it's going to help us so much.
This is my problem. And look, we slaughtered Gareth Southgate for this. We will continue to slaughter him. And I'm not saying France have been as bad as England in this tournament. However, that brand of football, I know France won. There's a reason why football teams do not play this way. And football teams with better players. is because over time it doesn't work. It can work over a short period in a tournament, and it has worked for France.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is, unlike Southgate, who never achieved much as a club manager, Deschamps actually did achieve things as a club manager years ago, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
delivered the title, was it at Marseille, right? The
Yeah,
first
yeah,
title
yeah.
in a million years, right? He didn't necessarily play like this brand of football. So it shows that
It was always quite pragmatic, though.
but you can be pragmatic, but he's shown that he's got that side of him too. And when you look at this and you say, look, we came so close to getting knocked out against Belgium, right?
So what?
What? You make a
So
face,
close.
but yes.
What's
Sorry.
where was the closeness again?
What was the
Belgium?
result?
1-0, but that was
Okay.
not close to being knocked
It was
out.
one goal. One goal
It's not like
difference.
Slovakia, England, for example. They were not behind in the 94th minute.
You're playing Belgium.
yeah, yeah.
You're
They're better
playing
than Slovakia.
Belgium, right? Belgium, who do not have the players. I don't want to play the combined 11 game again vis-a-vis Belgium, right? But that should be a warning. That should be a warning that tells you, oh, look, one mistake and we're out. What can I do to actually create more chances, to use the tools that I have? And he doesn't do that in this game against Portugal.
He does use the tools that he has. This is a team. This is you win trophies like this with your defense, not with anything else. Not with beautiful football. Not with super attacking style. Nobody with super attacking style. Not even Argentina with Messi. They had 3 defensive midfielders as well.
Okay, we're not talking about Argentina.
But that's not the point.
Argentina
no
don't have
teams-
the Argentina do not have the players France has. Okay,
But that's not the
I'm
point.
sorry.
That's not
They
the point.
don't.
That's not the point. They were first and foremost solid, and every team that wins big tournaments are solid more than anything else.
Yeah. Over 7 games after the fact, everybody looks solid. No team that's going to go win. This is one of those tautologies, Jules. This is one of those, and no team that goes and wins a tournament afterwards, you're going to say, well, they didn't look solid. No, of course not. The team that they won the tournament, they will always come back. But the question is, ultimately, do you create more than what you concede? And we saw in the Portugal game, I think very obviously, Portugal had the bulk of the better chances. It was a lot closer, despite the fact Portugal had a 41-year-old playing at center back.
Yeah, yeah.
That France has. I mean, you know the French players. I don't need to go and list them. This idea that I need all these defensive midfielders because what? I think Saliba and Upamecano can't handle 39-year-old Cristiano on their own. The one area actually was one pregame, and I don't want to troll back, but we talked about Rafael Leao against Koundé. Now, I think it's safe to say that is where France really, really struggled.
Yeah,
Rafael Leao played a big game there.
Yeah, he was good.
But other than that, it's still Rafael Leao. You say Rafael Leao, I say Dembele, I say Mbappe. There's so many options, and
Yeah.
this does not concern you.
But I just don't understand this. What's concerning me? That we don't score goals? Yeah, that's a problem. The XG is 9 in this tournament. They've scored 3. None of them from them.
What was the XG against Portugal?
1.2?
In Portugal's?
1.4?
He was 1.7.
Okay, 1.7. But I don't care. What are you talking to me about XG? Yes, Portugal had more chances. They could have scored goals. They didn't score goals. We won on penalties.
Right.
Like France will always be defensive. It will always be the style of Deschamps. This is their DNA.
Okay, so
I don't like it.
I'm going to give up on this.
It's
I'll make one more point.
No,
I'm
but
fine
I
with
understand
you
what you're
being
saying.
defensive.
But it's almost like
Listen.
you said, I can't wait to see them playing differently. They're never going to play differently.
Right,
So
okay.
why are we having this
The
debate?
reason you need to play differently, I think.
But they won't.
Listen. If you're going to play defensively, well, I'm getting my licks in before
Yeah.
after he gets knocked out and screws the pooch against Spain.
But they
because
will,
the
maybe.
reason you play defensively, if you're going to say we're going to play defensively, whatever, then you do not concede chances. Then you do not struggle the way you do. Then you're effective on the counter and you pump teams on the counter and whatever, right? Which I presume is what he's hoping to do. That's not what happens. They play defensively when, again, and another example, right? You can play defensively and you figure, well, Kylian's going to have all the space to run into. How many times was Kylian released in this game? Here you have
But
arguably
he's not fit. Yeah, there's clearly a problem.
so it's Kylian's lack of fitness. It's not a system which doesn't deliver him the ball in
He says
transition.
himself he doesn't run in behind because he doesn't like the ball is not going to come. That's not how they play. But he's clearly not fit. The mask is a problem, maybe an excuse. I don't know.
Right.
But there's clearly something wrong. There's clearly something wrong with him, as in the sense that he's not at his best right now. So let's hope he can be at his best for the next game at least.
Moving on to your opponents, Spain and Germany. Nagelsmann has made the changes throughout the tournament,
Yeah.
unlike other coaches. Was he vindicated? in this game?
I thought he made a mistake with the Sané instead of Wirtz starts. I said I thought Wirtz should start, and he had such a big impact after coming on at half-time, where Sané was completely, I thought, anonymous in that first half. So I think he got this one wrong. Then after that, to be fair, they came back into the game strongly once Dani Olmo scored that goal, especially later when I thought De La Fuente maybe a bit too early took out all his best players, because the second unit of Spain is obviously not as good as the first one. And I know Merino scored and it's a great header, but you felt the difference once the best player of the Spain team came off and the others came on, and then Germany were on top.
I thought he did that because he thought, well, part of it is this archetype about Spanish players compared to German players, not having the same levels of stamina and blah, 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 which I don't know, may or may not be true. I think it's kind of an old wives' tale. But then again, he's the coach. He can see it, right? He's got people who tell him. I think that's a big part of the reason why he did that. And I also do think that there's a belief that, Mikel Merino may play for Real Sociedad and whatever, and, he may have failed to step up when he was younger. But qualitatively, there isn't necessarily this enormous gap between, say, Merino and Fabian Ruiz.
Maybe not.
Right?
I thought more about Ferran Torres and Oyarzabal and players like that who don't keep the ball up. For example, like even like a Lamine would do, or Morata. I would not have changed so much. That's all.
Oyarzabal, I got no issues. Ferran Torres was a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
That much maligned defense that I keep poking fun of. Again, I don't think they were great again, but they did generally get the job done. Now, your friend Robin suspended for the final.
Yeah.
Dani Carvajal out. It's funny.
And Pedri out, obviously.
And Pedri obviously out too. So those are three pieces you need to replace. Actually, before we talk about how to replace him, Dani Carvajal, when he got sent off, right? Part of me, and I like Carvajal, part of me says, all right, dude, you've already picked up a yellow, so you're going to miss the next game.
Yeah.
Was that necessary? Because I'm assuming he's going to miss the final now too, right?
It's only just a one match. I thought it was one match ban.
Okay, then can I say something? For a foul like that,
it's a nasty foul.
I think the tournament's over. It's not that it's dangerous necessarily. It's just that it goes so far against the spirit of the game. That kind of tactical foul.
I thought Musiala was really kind in not almost retaliating, not as in not go and punch him and get sent off himself, but I thought it was such a bad foul.
If Carvajal was on my team, I would want him to do that every day of the week. But as a neutral, I'm like, I don't need this.
Not nice.
So what do we? Actually, let's try to preview from on the France side. What changes do we expect to the 11?
Rabiot is going to come back in, obviously, and then
Camavinga goes out.
Yeah.
Okay, so again we go back to, let's take off the good player and put it on the Rabiot. Okay, all right, that's fine.
That's your opinion.
The Rabiot who's unemployed right now, yeah.
Deschamps thinks that Rabiot in a game like this is better than Camavinga. So I don't know. And then
I think he thinks this in every game because he always starts Rabiot when he's available.
Yeah, he loves Rabiot.
Okay, yeah.
I think Rabiot has a lot of qualities too. It's not just Camavinga. I don't think the gap between them two is.
Okay, more interestingly.
Yeah, I think they're going to drop Griezmann. It's just they've tried in different positions, different system. It hasn't worked for him. I think he's doesn't have the legs anymore. He's 33. I think this could be his last competition too for France.
Impact sub Griezmann then.
But then we saw against Poland coming off the bench, there was no impact. I'm not even sure he can be an impact sub anymore. But we will have to see the scenario of the game. And I think for Antoine, not starting a game like this against Spain, which is obviously he spent more time, he's lived more in Spain than in France in his life, it would be really hurtful. So he might not drop him, but if it looks like his first idea is maybe to drop him and go back to the 4-3-3 with either Dembele and Barcola and Kylian central, or certainly Dembele there, Mbappe on the left, and then probably Thuram as a 9.
So no more Colomwani for now.
No more now. But to be fair, you said that, but against Portugal he had a big chance,
Which he didn't take.
He didn't take, but neither did Cristiano, Vitinha or Bruno, and they're better players than Colomwani. So
I thought Vitinha had a really good game. Nuno Mendes, all these players who I generally don't like. I'm saying nice things about Paris Saint-Germain.
No, but you're right, they were good. But then Nuno against Dembele struggled as soon as Dembele came on.
I think everybody would struggle against
Dembele.
Dembele.
When he's in that kind of form.
When he's in that kind of form.
Sure.
And for Spain, we
Jesus Navas at right back, Nacho centre back.
That's a lot of age
And then
coming on
Dani
there.
Olmo instead of Pedri, which is a different profile. Maybe doesn't press as efficiently, but brings you something else.
Is that
across
so
the
automatic to Dani Olmo for Pedri in this one? Because I'm just wondering, against France, would I want maybe another passer in there rather than Dani Olmo?
Yeah, maybe. Although playing between the lines, they will have a lot of the ball. They will have 60%, 65% of the ball easily. So maybe you need somebody who can play between the line instead of having maybe a passer. But if
I'm playing three defensive midfielders, three very good ones, three very athletic ones, very smart ones who fill a lot of space.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if maybe I'm not better off with another passer and trying to play more of a patient possession rather than having Dani Olmo in that role.
Yeah, maybe. Although I think the patient build-up will suit France because they would be so well organized, medium block. They would have to move much. So I would rather somebody between the lines, to be fair. But we'll see. And Dani Olmo replaced Pedri. I know it's a different game, different opposition. But it looks like, this is the kind of substitute.
Who has more options to change things off the bench?
We love Oyarzabal together. Ferran Torres, not so much. Then it's a good point, actually. I don't know. There might be a little bit more depth in the French squad.
There's definitely more depth of talent. I do kind of feel De La Fuente is more likely to make changes. Like if it's 0-0 with an hour gone, I feel like De La Fuente is more likely to make changes to win the game. Whereas Deschamps is more likely to make the changes either to maintain because the level has dropped,
definitely,
or obviously if they fall behind, send on the.
I think the best would be, I guess, an early Spain goal, because I think the French would be so happy with keeping the 0-0, being well organized, and just waiting for that moment. That will, undoubtedly come at some point, and then go and try to be efficient and punish them. So an early goal from Spain, then he will open things up massively, and then the game will be better. Otherwise, it will be attack v defense, and I'm not sure that's pretty.
You know, we love predictions and percentages, so I will ask you a prediction that I think what most people really care about. Percent chance we see Olivier Giroud play at some point.
Well, it will only depend on the scenario.
I know.
But I
want to see him on the pitch.
I know.
I just want to see him.
And that was what could be, by the way, his last cap,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's see.
All right, we're not going to predict who wins the game because these predictions are stupid. We told you how we think the game's going to go. In the end, it's a low-scoring game. Deal with it. There's a lot of randomness. All right, enough France. Let's talk about England, world champions in 1966, and the Dutch, European champions in...
Of course. 1988.
That's right. There you go.
In Germany, actually.
In Germany, there we go. World history. Here. Okay, Jules, I think it's fair to say we've both been extremely critical of both these coaches.
Yeah.
Ronald Koeman, the Dutch guy, and Gareth Southgate,
the English guy.
Oh no, of which we say is a better person than he is a coach. Funnily, we don't say that about Ronald Koeman. But all right, I don't think either one of these teams has played particularly well in this tournament.
That's true.
You could make the point that Holland did play better, they seemed to get a little better as the tournament went on. I don't mean so much in the round of 16, the Cody Gakpo game, because I thought there was more like individuals. But here they really showed a reaction against Turkey.
Yeah, after 65 minutes. For a long time it was really slow. There was not enough urgency. The ball was not moving quickly enough. Memphis and Xavi especially were just out of it a little bit despite a good start. But then towards the end, they got a bit better. And as soon as you play wide on Gakpo is not perfect, but he runs at you, he makes things happen. When Dumfries got the ball eventually and put, I think, his first cross in the game, hey, guess what? They scored a goal. So for a long time, it was far too narrow from the Dutch. We didn't make much sense, and it took a long time for the Dutch guy to rectify it, but he did in the end, and it was enough. They won. Well done to them.
You're going to show some love for Turkey as well.
Turkey,
I thought in the end, Holland have better players, they have better individuals, and I thought that was the turning point. But I think Turkey can really lead this tournament with their heads held high. As for England, they advance. It's penalties.
Somehow.
I'm waiting for the script to change. I'm waiting for, after each game, something to happen and for this team to click.
Yeah.
And instead, it's the same crap. It's really slow
Yeah.
build up, which I don't understand because none of these people play this way at the
That's true.
club level. There's always a bazillion players behind the ball,
Yeah.
which again makes no sense, especially given who you're playing against. And then they go a goal down, and then they give up a ton of other chances, and you expect something, and then there's a moment of individual brilliance,
Yeah.
and then you go back to the snooze fest, and then this time on penalties.
Yeah.
Gareth Southgate cannot tell me that winning on penalties is part of the plan.
No, I don't think there's a plan anyway. I just don't think he has a plan, really. He tried his back three, which, I mean, the way he set it up, I don't see it. But I like the character, and I think, like we've said, you win, you go find those tournaments also with character, not with playing well automatically, but having your individual top players at some point creating something special and showing the character. And they gone behind. And to be fair, Switzerland 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go, they should not concede that Saka goal. Everybody knows exactly what's going to happen. Everybody knows he's going to come inside. Everybody knows he's there. I think Granit Xhaka knows he's coming. And then Granit Xhaka is a little bit late and just extends his leg, and the ball goes through his kind of legs and then goes in. I think even Jan Sommer knows exactly what's going to happen, and he still, for me, doesn't gamble enough in where the ball is going to go, because we all know what Saka is. It's a great goal from Saka, maybe the most important goal in his career, certainly in his international career. But if you're from a Swiss point of view, it was a bit disappointing, I think, to concede that goal.
Switzerland got a ton of praise in this tournament. Did you think they were maybe a little bit overly physical in the way they played? I mean, not that England complained about it.
No, overly.
It just feels like a lot of fouls.
Yeah, but again, I think this is part also of what, in a game like that, what can make a difference. So I have no issue with it.
All right. So how do we feel about England and the Dutch? I mean, I can't. I look at this and I see such an imbalance.
Yeah.
In terms of talent.
Yeah.
I still see a lot of cracks. At the end, I don't know if you picked up on this. I was watching the game on television. When Koeman makes a substitution, sort of like minute 89 or something,
Yeah.
Van Dijk just absolutely loses his rag
no, I
and
didn't
starts
see. I was
shouting
at
at
the game,
Koeman. Starts shouting at the bench. I think I forget who it was. He made a double substitution late. He brought a defender.
Yeah, Zirkzee and Veerman came on.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? Does Koeman have control in this? Is it?
I don't know.
Or is it
it's
the players?
interesting. It's interesting. Talking about Van Dijk, just before we continue on that, we'll talk about it in the podcast, because I think Van Dijk could be the weakest link, but England have nothing to exploit that link. But yeah, maybe it's more down to the players than Koeman in that team. Just on Van Dijk, I was at the game again, and I think I've done 3 of the games now or something, and he really struggles with the space behind him, those balls over the top. I mean, Yilmaz must be a pain to play against, the Turkey forward, because he runs forever all the time, never stops. The channels behind you, he's always that kind of threat. I don't think he's like Lionel Messi in this guy or anything like that. I don't think he can finish that great, but for that he's good. And Van Dijk really struggled, and I guess De Vrij is not that comfortable either defending that way. But the Dutch played quite high against Turkey and left all that space behind, and Van Dijk that caused him problems. And I think if England could exploit that, the problem is Harry Kane can't run anymore. Clearly in this competition, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know if he's a little bit overweight. I don't know if he's not fit and there's an injury somewhere, but he can't run anymore like that.
Yeah, well, he's not gonna be frenetic the way
No.
Yilmaz is.
He was never anyway. But
it is a good point. I wonder if maybe you could use it, do something tactically sophisticated. Maybe certain situations where you use one of your wide men in that role, and you target the defender, and you drop Kane or whatever. But then it's Southgate. He's not going to go and do that. And also,
also Saka, Foden.
Saka's the
if
one.
You had Rashford or Sterling, or Rashford especially, maybe. But Foden, Palmer, Saka, Bellingham, whoever is there,
they're not that type. Well,
no.
Saka I think could be, but again,
running behind.
Saka's
Saka.
a fullback now, right?
Yeah, you're right. Scoop on, maybe, yeah.
I mean, do you think he's going to keep the back 3, or do you think with Gay back?
Surely with Gay back goes back to. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know. Because I thought he could have gone to back three earlier, but he took so long to do it. Just did it for that Switzerland game, clearly to match them. So maybe he can do it again. I think he has no clue anyway. So.
By the way, I ripped Deschamps. I just didn't before this, and the idea I'm going to rip Southgate for the same reason. You are the more talented team. You should impose yourself on the opposition and set the tone for the game. And it doesn't need to be, and I hate it when people talk about attacking football. Oh, no, it's just all about pretty football. I don't care about pretty football. I don't even care about attacking football. I care about making them play the game you want to play. If you're a team that's super comfortable defending, then that might mean defend deep. Play on the counter. It might not be pretty, but you can do that. You can do that well. You unsettle the other team. You disturb them, you play in transition, whatever. England are not good at playing in transition, which is the other part I don't understand. You want to be conservative, you want to have all these guys behind the ball, fine. But why are they so bad in transition? What's missing? I don't understand. Is it the movement, the lack of chemistry?
Yeah, maybe a bit of that. The lack of coaching, really, I think. It's not. I don't want to keep going on about Southgate, but for me it's pretty obvious that this team is not coached. A lot of those players don't really know what to do. There's no structure to build up play. There's no structure to press, or maybe they can't press, or maybe they don't want to press. I also think there might be a Bellingham issue in the sense that he wants to play as a 10, and okay, maybe.
Does he want to, or does Southgate tell him, "Oh, you just played as a 10 for Real Madrid. Why don't you keep doing that?"
I don't know. The way I see it, I think he would be more beneficial to the team if he played a bit deeper. But for him and himself, and I would be the same. I would be like, hey, I want to play as a 10. 10 is more fun than 8 in a tournament like that, 100%.
I don't know Jude Bellingham personally, but I know enough people who do and who've worked with him and who work with him. He will do what's best for the team. He knows. He understands. He's got an understanding of football. He has an understanding of football. He's played that position before.
Yeah.
If Southgate says, let's change the framework here a little bit, I don't think Jude Bellingham would say, oh, no, wait, I'm Jude Bellingham. Look at me. I won the Champions League. I just don't. Nobody I know who knows him well have given any suggestion that he's that kind of player. Yeah. So he would do that for the. So I can only assume that, no, it's Gareth thinking, oh, look, he scored that goal with the overhead kick. I want to keep him closer to the goal. He scored a lot of goals. And, he's saying Kane only scored one this tournament, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what goes through these people's minds. But, look, it may also mean that whatever mistakes he feels that mid-tournament isn't the time to remedy them, right?
Yeah.
But we agree England are favourites.
I mean, just the individual quality that they have, which is clearly the only thing that is carrying them in this tournament. It's nothing else. It's not the team collective strength. It's not the tactics. It's the character and the individual brilliance. So for that, against a team that has done okay and has a bit of collective strength themselves, more than England for sure, but not the same individual talent, England have to
individual
be the
quality, and also I think the injuries have really hit. The fact that Xavi Simons has to play because otherwise nobody in midfield can pass the ball effectively.
Yeah, but he can go back to a 4-2-3 instead of the 4-2-4.
But you're still forcing. But if you play the midfield three of Reinders, Schouten, and Fairman, the ball's never going to get against England. The ball's not going to get. So you have to have Xavi Simons in.
Yeah, true.
And there's no alternative to it. There's nobody else on the bench who he's forgetting. Without Koop Miners and De Jong, they have lost so much in this midfield. Massively. And the forwards aren't good enough to carry you unless it's a moment of individual brilliance from Depay or from
Gakpo.
Or from Cody Gakpo. There you go. All right, enough Euros. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Brazil are out of the Copa America, losing on penalties to Marcelo Bielsa in Uruguay, who go down to 10 men with 15 minutes to go. Jules, this is a shock. It's always a shock when Brazil go out.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially that early in a game that I expected the referee to be busy, and I watched it, to be fair, the next morning because it was 3 a.m. kickoff here, and I'd watched Colombia already. I expected the referee to be busy. 41 fouls in 90 minutes. The game was so chippy and so cagey and everything, hardly no chances, which we expected, to be fair. In the end, what really frustrated me, you know what? And if I was a Brazilian fan or Brazilian player, this idea of scrapping extra time in a game like this, when you've had a red card, and I know there will be other games and other scenarios where it's different. I understand, but right now, Brazil would have played an extra half an hour against a Uruguay team with 10 men, both teams were tired because it was all about running, intensity, physicality, fouls, blah blah blah, everything. And the outcome might have been very different than going straight to penalty.
I had the exact same reaction. I'm like, why are you doing this? What is the purpose here? This is not the FA Cup or some nonsense like that.
I know. So, but well done to Bielsa and Uruguay. And Gab, Brazil losing, obviously, going to cause a lot of controversy. Many are blaming the coach, Dorival Jr., but the CBF is saying that they have no plans to replace him.
No, and I think they're right. And I don't think you can judge somebody on this on something like that, on something that they've gone out on penalties. I don't think Brazil were poor. I don't think they were great this tournament.
No.
Obviously, and by the way, the foul count I think was 24-17. Yeah, Brazil are going to get fouled because, especially when you're playing against the Bielsa team, and it's Uruguay who are going to be more physical and whatever. I don't think you can really complain about that side of thing. I thought it was very telling and terrible optics when they're standing around for the in the huddle for the penalties, and he's not in the group.
Yeah, I agree.
He should. Well, first of all, I expect him either to get in there and establish a dominance, or the players to say this is a bad look. We should also mention in Brazil's defense, is Vinicius was suspended for this game, by the way, which I think could have turned it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Endrick started. You know how many successful passes Endrick had in 90 minutes?
Not many?
2.
Yeah.
One of them being kickoff.
James continues to turn back the clock as Colombia destroy Panama 5-0 to advance the semifinal, where of course they'll be taking on Uruguay. Joseph, they're not slowing down at all.
They're not at all. Really outstanding performance. The Luis Diaz goal is great. James' performance overall amazing. I'm not sure what's happening to him, but when he's in that kind of form, and it's pretty great to watch and great for his team. They're balanced, they work really hard, they're good defensively, they're good offensively, they're efficient. It's amazing. That Colombia-Uruguay semi-final is box office.
It's going to be absolutely huge. Who you got?
I still have Uruguay, I think.
I got Colombia.
Just about. Let's see.
I got Colombia.
Argentina need penalties, Gabi, to get past Ecuador. And this was far from easy, as Ener Valencia misses a pen as well during the game.
Yeah, I thought Ecuador played really well. I saw Argentina kind of sleepwalking through this one. Messi, not a good game.
Not good Copa America overall, anyway.
He had the injury. He was coming back from the injury. But then again, walks around most of the game. True. Affect him. Emi Martinez coming up big in the shootout with his shenanigans. By the way, speaking of shenanigans, I love the fact that Jordan Pickford's going to do the whole wind-up person. Just going back to England thing. Orsato gets in his way, blocks him, and says, bud, you're not going near the penalty taker. And he did the same thing, to be fair, to Sommer as well. It's good. I want to see people enforcing rules. But yeah, I thought things haven't clicked for Scaloni in this tournament, but then of course they've got the experience and the quality, so they could win it.
That's true.
And in fact, they're now going to face Canada, who overcame Venezuela in yet another penalty shootout. But Rondon,
incredible.
Rondon.
You know what? It's not
Tell
so
me
much.
about it.
It's not so much the lob. If you haven't seen, it's a great lob. It's that it still has some pace. To just chase that ball and then use it to lob the keeper. Incredible. It's like going back. It's a bit like James. Salomon Rondon and James.
They're
like playing like 10 years ago.
No.
Amazing. Well done to them. And well done to Canada, by the way, because they deserve credit. Semi-final, it hasn't always been pretty, but Jesse Marsh doing a good job.
And I thought they had the better chances as well.
Yeah, definitely. The US Soccer Federation said that they would announce Greg Berhalter's future in the next few days after that early group stage exit. Gab, what are they figuring out? And also, can you explain this golden generation narrative around the US?
Yeah, as far as I know, the US Soccer Federation, they don't have a lot of money, so I think they're going to end up keeping Berhalter, and I think it's fine. I think you have to put it in context. It's right to do a review. It's also right to say that without the Tim Weah card, we could be telling a very different story here. True. There's also this narrative out there, which I hear from mainstream media, so not US soccer media, like, but this was the US's golden generation, blah, blah, blah. You could have
talent, as in like policing. Okay.
You might have been able to say that 2 years ago, but none of these people have kicked on apart from Pulisic, or very few of them have.
Yeah.
Because honestly, all right, Pulisic #1, fine, he's doing very well, but Gio Reyna has effectively lost the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Weston McKennie, he's in a situation where his club doesn't want him. Nobody wants him. He won't take a pay cut. That's the reality of it. Tyler Adams, the man is always injured, right? He basically hasn't played for the last year.
Yeah.
Who else? certainly not these goalkeepers.
No, Tim Weah is a sub.
Tim Weah is another guy who really hasn't developed into what people thought. Balogun joined the golden generation, may come good, may not. So
it's true.
So let's just put the stupid narrative away. Ryan O'Hanlon, by the way, has a whole piece demolishing this. I'm assuming from an analytics perspective. Michael Elise to Bayern is all done, Jules.
Yes.
Another chance to answer that question that we asked when he was first linked. Where does he fit in?
Well, I think he plays on that right-hand side. I mean, you can play as a 10. I think Thierry Henry would...
No, with all the other players who are there.
Well, yeah, but it's him or Zane, right? I play him ahead of Zane. You don't spend 60 million euros and put somebody on the bench, right? So you're going to play him in his best position, which is on that right-hand side.
I guess so.
See what happens. Neil Bath, the legendary head of Chelsea's academy, is leaving after nearly 30 years. Why?
Yeah, this is an odd one. By the way, he's been there like nearly 30 years, but
it's amazing.
He's not old because he joined when he was very young.
Yeah.
Chelsea's academy, I think, probably the most dominant academy in England over the years. A sheer volume of players they've produced
and trophies that they won.
Now, a lot of it has to do with London, with the way it's set up. They hoover up so many players. All these guys that you don't think about, like Michael Elise. In fact, another Chelsea.
With Jamal Musiala, by the way.
Two Chelsea academy guys. I think Chelsea need to get ahead of this narrative because the rumors are already out there that it's a disagreement with the club, with the model, with another guy, Jim Fraser, who worked with Neil Bath, who was let go 6 months ago. Chelsea did knock this on the head. Not a good look. No. Jules, you love your left-footed center backs. How excited are you about Riccardo Calafiori to Arsenal? And is he going to be a left-footed center back or a left-footed left back?
Or left-footed, maybe inverted. Or inverted fullback or something. I would love it to happen. I won't lie.
It's very close. As we understand, they've agreed personal terms.
That's right.
There's I think it's more about how the payments to Bologna are going to be structured.
Yeah, because it's a bit complicated because Basel would get 45% of the transfer fee. So there's a few things to sort out. I love Calafiori. I know there's a few worries about maybe his fitness and the fact that he had some big injuries really young. But that can happen, and then it can happen young to you and then never again in your career. So I don't think you should base everything on that, on like injury list or injury history, for example. So I'm so excited. I think he's a wonderful player, really, really do, and he will fit so well into what Arteta wants to do.
I think it's interesting that obviously with Arteta, a little bit like Pep, he's moving towards all right, I want 4 center backs across the back, right?
Yeah.
Obviously all talented, ball playing, whatever else. And going into the season, I thought, all right, they'll probably try to shift Zinchenko, who they may yet do.
Or Kivior.
Or both, frankly.
Yeah, both.
But he's basically coming in for the Kivior role.
Yeah.
With the difference that he's probably better on the role on the ball than Kivior. Julien Timber will hopefully be fit all season.
Yeah.
Tomoyasu's coming back. Ben White's coming back. There's a nice symmetry, and I think there's a depth there as well, potentially at center back, which I think Arsenal really, really need, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And that gives you other different options as well. If Gabriel has a bit of a dip, you can put Calafiori there and then put somebody else at left back or start Calafiori at left back. I think Calafiori, who has played left back before, by the way, it's not just us saying that he's left-footed so he can play left back. Those Joshua Zirkzee to Manchester United rumors keep getting stronger and stronger, Gabby.
So I find this really interesting because Zirkzee has a release fee. By the way, we're going full on Bologna.
I know, full on Bologna. Sorry, Bologna fans.
I believe it's around 40 million euros. Yeah. And in this situation, you have to agree personal terms with Zirkzee, obviously. You pay the release fee, and obviously you have to pay a commission to the guy representing him, who is Kia Jarabshin.
Yeah.
Now, Milan really wanted Zirkzee. They pursued him every which way. They had everything in place. The narrative that's out there is that this deal wasn't done because they couldn't agree on Kia's commission.
Right.
The commission was Milan deemed it too high. What I don't understand, if you're Manchester United, right? You decided to keep Ten Hag a long time ago, right? I mean, obviously after the end of the season, you had your review, and you had to get everybody in. Dan, what do you think? Jason Wilcox, what do you think? Oh, remember, but you got this done. Now, you know the situation. You can presumably afford the transfer fee. Presumably, Zirkzee's delighted, with all due respect to Bologna, to come to Old Trafford.
Yeah, sure.
You need another striker.
Yeah.
You must also know that the other hurdle is resolving the commission issue with Kia. it shouldn't be difficult for you to do that. Or are they going in nickel and diming Kia as well, the way Milan are? Because if they are, it'd be really disappointing.
They can't. They know the situation. They know why it hasn't happened to Milan. So they're not gonna have the same position at Milan. Otherwise, what's the point? You don't go that far. Then you said, how much the commission? Oh no, too high. We're out.
You don't, or do you? Maybe when you're United and you don't always do things.
I don't know.
I just don't understand why the whole month that it looked like he was landing at Milan, there wasn't a peep from United.
Yeah,
also, because remember, we've been told, under the new Ratcliffe rules, and I agree with them, that it's not the manager who's going to be manager and director of football and pretend he's Sir Alex.
Yeah.
You're going to have technical direction from the club, and they're going to sign players who they think fit, right?
Yeah.
So if those guys like them, those guys were already in place, sort of obviously Ashworth's later, but I'm sure they were in touch, right?
Yeah.
That's just what strikes me as weird. It almost feels as if
Yeah.
some Dutch connection, or maybe United being used a little bit to see if Milan say, all right, oh shoot, he's really gonna go. Okay, fine, we'll pony up. I don't know.
Is it a bit, if you're a United fan, the fact that the three players that they look the most likely to sign right now, Ugarte, De Ligt, and Zirkzee, Ugarte could not get into the PSG team because Luis Enrique didn't think as a 6 he was good enough on the ball, especially to build up play. That De Ligt can't get in the national team or his club team, and that Zirkzee, great at Bologna in a great season, but he's a sub for the Netherlands, third pick behind Memphis and Weghorst, and that are the three players that United are going to sign. So 3 subs, whatever the environment is. Is that a bit of a worry? Instead of going for players who are, starters, maybe stars in their team, or difference makers at least in their team?
I think it's a very fair question. I think what I would say to that is these are also, other than Zirkzee, the other 2 are expensive players because De Ligt is on a big contract at Bayern, a big contract at Juve. Ugarte as well.
Really
a little less, but he's
he's
still coming from Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah.
So you're signing guys from big clubs who obviously generally tend to be more expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems a little. I mean, look, having another go at Ugarte, I think makes sense because you saw before there's a player there, right? But meanwhile, Casemiro is still at the club as well.
True.
Which is weird. Remember all these things. Oh, Saudi's coming. Saudi will spend this and that. Well, hey, Saudi, hurry up because it's nearly mid-July.
Yeah.
And what are all these where's all this money you were supposed to drop around Europe
I
so
know.
kindly, like last year when you bankrolled European football? I don't know that they're going to do that this year. Honestly.
Let's see.
Cristiano Ronaldo, speaking of Saudi, took to Instagram to thank the Portugal fans and remind them that they and the team deserved more. Jules, I'm just asking you to troll you. Do you agree with Cristiano?
It's okay. I agree with everything Cristiano always says, but you can blame Joao Felix. He hit the post. That's it.
Yeah, I gotta say, when Joao Felix came on, I like Joao Felix less and less every time.
If you thought his career could not go worse, I mean,
I'm also okay. So you come on in this game, right? I guess he was playing in the Leao position theoretically, but he was playing a lot deeper. He's walking around the pitch. I don't expect you to be fast like Leao.
And he had that header that
he had a terrible header at the far post.
Tight angle, but still.
I mean, he looked like somebody who's putting no effort out. He looked like somebody who was sulking because I don't get to start.
Maybe.
Honestly, enough.
Toni Kroos has made waves here in Germany with an interview in which he says that he's going to continue living in Spain now that he's retired instead of coming back and live in Germany. That Germany isn't what it was 10 years ago. Some criticized him for his comment on immigration too.
So, a couple of things to this. Obviously, this drew a lot of attention because Toni Kroos speaks about subjects with nuance. And if you sit and you watch this whole podcast, which these 2 guys, I don't know, Pants and Schmantz, something like that. No, it's not.
Yeah.
But it's these 2 guys. It's for ZDF, the German state broadcaster. And he gets into complex issues with nuance. So, first of all, when he talks about Germany isn't what it was 10 years ago, dude, you don't live here in Germany, and you haven't lived here for 10 years.
Yeah.
So maybe you're not necessarily the right guy to give us an analysis of what Germany was,
true.
or at least you have to take that into account when you talk about it. But he, at the same time, the man is German, and he, being abroad, he can look back at his own country sometimes in a more detached way.
True.
He talked about how welcoming everybody was to immigration. That was 100% the correct thing to do. But then he says sometimes, if we don't have the ability to distinguish between people who are going to help our country and people who are going to hurt our country, that becomes a problem. And he talked about how divided Germany was. People have taken some of his quotes out of context, and I think they've made it seem like he's some sort of anti-immigrant guy, also because he says, he thinks of his daughter going out at night in the city center.
He said,
after 11.
Let her in Germany, but I would let her in Spain.
I would let her in Spain, not in Germany. Yeah, Spain is what you're familiar with, dude, because you've lived there for the last 10 years. Like, I don't think Kroos was trying to come off as some kind of anti-immigration thing. I think he was trying to talk like an adult. Not a raging liberal, not a raging conservative, but somebody who's evaluating all sides. And I just invite people to look at the whole context. If you can get a transcript, listen to it in German, or if you don't speak German, get a whole transcript. People tweet it out. Our colleague Archie has put it out there. I make up your own minds. I welcome when ex-footballers, because he's now retired.
That's true.
When people come out, public figures, and they talk about it in an intelligent, nuanced way, which is what he does. And I don't think he should be punished for it. Scott Parker is the new Burnley manager, beating out Frank Lampard Jr. Jules, quite a change from Vincent Kompany. I know you love talking about these guys, especially as managers.
Quite a change. Quite a change. Inheriting a good squad, to be fair. In the Championship, you would expect them to be favourite to go back straight up. And he's done that before, so...
Does this make him a better coach than Frank Lampard Jr.?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Just about, maybe. Just about.
I'm Team Frank. Although
I love Frank, but I
give Parker credit for his cardigan, though.
Yeah, of course, but they're very expensive, as you know. We talked about it before. 18-year-old Michael Golding joined Leicester from Chelsea in a reported deal worth $4 million. Gab, another mirror deal?
It's fine. Like, I'm not suggesting there's anything untoward here. And we have to say these are separate deals. But and some people have reported the fee as $5 million. So Chelsea signed Kieran Dewsbury Hall. $30 million, 6 years.
6 years.
It's about 5 years. It was $5 million a year in amortization. And Michael Golding goes the other way, $4 million to around $4 to $5 million. Hey, look, they net out
from the academy, so straight profit.
Exactly, straight profit. These deals totally net out, not costing Leicester a lot of money. I know the accountants are running the shop, and look, it's also true that you're just spreading the money down the road, and next year you'll have to find another Michael Golding to give away if you want to pay for your Dewsbury Hall, whatever. All these things, but this is the reality of where we are football-wise right now.
Michael Golding's sweet. I saw the video when he joined Leicester. They asked him a lot of questions to answer, and they said, "What's your best day in football in your career?" And the answer is signing for Leicester City, right? This is the video on the Leicester City social media stuff, everything. And he goes, playing for England at youth level. And then he clearly thinks about it. He goes, and obviously signing for Leicester City. Yeah, of course it is. Thiago Alcantara has announced his retirement, which is a sad day for all the ballers and the purists of the game in the world. Gab, can you provide some context, please?
Yeah, so it's funny because he's been... Well, he'll always have a spot in my heart because, of course,
all of us.
He and his brother, the other Rafinha, their dad is Mazinho.
Of course.
I don't know if it was him or his brother. I think it might have been him. Actually born in Italy. Mazinho, of course, the legendary fullback from the 1994 Brazil World Cup winning side. So he had in his DNA.
Fullback or centre mid?
We played both, but I think he was mostly fullback on that team. I love the fact that he and his brother played for different countries, right? One Spain, one Brazil. I love the fact that, very Barcelona, tiki-taka, that kind of stereotype of the time. But then he goes to Bayern, works with Pep, develops a directness, develops even some pressing to it. But just his whole career has just been so marked by injuries. I didn't like the deal from the Liverpool's perspective when he signed. I remember
you saying on the show, as soon as it happened, you were not keen.
Because it was a lot of money in wages, and it was a relatively high transfer fee for a guy who was not going to have resale value. Now, I know why they did it, and I suspect, without having any evidence, I'll just speculate, this is the kind of deal where the coach wants And the Moneyball nerds, Edwards and friends, are like, nah, I'm not sure about this. But from Klopp's perspective is, when I play teams that park the bus, I want the guy who can pick out the pass from nowhere. And it's him. But I think obviously the injuries meant, we'll look at it a different way.
Artist, but yeah.
But he was such a special, just a joy to watch as a player. But good for him as well, 33. He's got a long time. There's so many things he can do to contribute to the game. Two current greats of the women's game have new homes.
That's
Jules,
true.
your views on Fran Kirby to Brighton and Viviane Miedema to Manchester City.
Yeah, I mean, for Fran, she had to leave Chelsea, really. And I think she's going to help Brighton
Why'd she have to
grow.
leave?
I mean, she'd been there almost 10 years now, and she was very much part of the Emma Hayes era. And with Emma leaving and her losing her place in that team, not playing much, I think it must have been really frustrating, coming back from 2 massive injuries as well. I think she just needed, even to come back in the England side, to leave and get a fresh start somewhere else. For Miedema, it's a bit different. She was out of contract at Arsenal, and where there's obviously a lot of other strikers in Russo and Blackstenius, all of that. She's also had a bad knee injury, coming back. And I think if you're Manchester City, even with Bunny Shaw, even with the depth that you have, Miedema on the market at her age, you take it.
It's interesting with the women's game. I wonder, people have talked about the number of really bad long-term injuries.
Yeah, ACL especially.
I feel like if you were to make a list of the top 20 women in the world, I feel like more than half of them probably have had serious ACLs, right? Or comparable injuries.
Yeah.
And, Sam Kerr's another one, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I wonder to what degree that kind of robs the momentum as well of building up a player into a star beyond the women's game,
Yeah, that's
right?
what you mean.
Because Miedema, I mean, was it 4 years ago, 5 years ago after Holland did so well? Like, it felt like she was just on the cusp of, and then these repeated injuries.
Yeah, no, she's had bad ones. Gab, we talked last time about Stefano Pioli on his way to Al Ittihad, but this seems to be collapsing.
Yeah, so apparently it's the guy who runs Al Ittihad. It's been replaced. Lomi, some dude I'd never heard of. It just goes to show that, again, when we stereotype, my views on stereotyping. Right? So we've very stereotyped the Saudi Pro League as the public investment fund owning everything, when in fact they don't. It's 4 teams plus some limited investment in others, and there's just one guy signing check after check after check.
Yeah.
No, there isn't. Within whatever parameters they have, they're still running businesses. They're still trying to operate like football clubs. This guy wanted Pioli, was ready to sign a big check for him. Other people within the club maybe didn't. They had a disagreement, and now he's left. We need to stop thinking about places that seem far away to those of us of a Eurocentric persuasion as places where people are just weirdos and do weird things, and there's no logic to it. There is a logic to it. There's a logic to the Saudi Pro League. All those people who said, like, within 5 years, Saudi Pro League's going to be bigger than La Liga, blah, blah, blah. Look at all their building. No, well, in the end, they still need a business plan.
Yeah.
They still need to make ends meet. They still need to make things work. And I think this is one example of it. And I think it's that more than the fact that Karim Benzema didn't want Stefano Pioli.
Definitely not.
At some point, like, okay, who died and made you king, Karim? You don't like Gajardo. You didn't like, who was the guy before him we didn't like?
Nuno Santos.
Oh, yeah, of course. Nuno Espirito. Yeah. That one's kind of easier to understand, on this, but is he on holiday in the Maldives again?
No, because I saw him
Karim?
in his gym somewhere in his house. So I think he's back in Madrid, maybe.
Does he need to go back for preseason?
Soon, I think, but not now. Is it?
All right. Yeah. Okay. I hope he's being consulted on the next manager anyway. Now, I assume we all saw the photos of a very young Lionel Messi bathing a newborn, 6 months old, Lamine Yamal.
Yeah.
Jules, this is weird,
it's a bit weird,
but also really cool.
Yeah, really sweet. I mean, Messi,
the backstory,
really young, obviously 17 years ago or something now, for a charity calendar, calendar year, those calendar with every month of the year.
Charity calendar where they got kids in the academy with immigrant family.
It's not very clear either. But
I'm just thinking of the absolute coincidence.
Yeah.
Because
people thought the photo was not legit. Maybe there was a bit of a is this really or is this Photoshop? Is this? Is it really
it's not a
Lamine?
Photoshop. They traced down the original guy.
Yeah, the photographer. I think ESPN spoke to the photographer.
The kid's a baby, right? It could be any freaking baby. They all look the same. But there's another picture where you have Lamine's mom and his dad. And yeah, those guys. It's not like they kind of photoshopped them later with young Messi.
I just love it. And I mean, the dad must have waited a long time before releasing the photo because he posted it on social media. You wait, and then there's the right moment to do it. And I love Lamine Yamal so much.
I would be so disappointed if this turned out to be some sort of weirdo AI deep fake.
Nah.
So it can't be. It's a weird. I'm just fascinated by the absolute coincidence of all the kids because. Contrary to popular belief, yes, Lamine Yamal is good and precocious, but I think we can safely say at 6 months old, he was not playing.
Nobody knew that he was going to have this life.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
So out of all the kids in the world, out of all the kids in the Barcelona academy,
it was not in the academy either. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying Messi.
Yeah.
Like the fact that those two got paired up.
But Messi wasn't either in the academy 16 years ago. He was already 21 years old, so he was playing for the first team. Yeah.
Out of all the people in the first team that they could have had, he's not.
Can you imagine now?
Like, look, this guy's African like you. Hey, look.
Yeah.
What's none of that?
True. Yeah, that's really true. It's amazing. Marcelo Bielsa, Gabi, had a lot to say about football belonging to the poor and how it's a dying sport and how it needs to be protected. I cannot wait for your answer.
Okay, so I have the maximum admiration for Marcelo Bielsa and the work he does as a coach. It's special. It's different. Sometimes not easy to work with, but that's fine because many of the best coaches and leaders aren't always the easiest to work with. What I don't like is when you go into the screed, which he did on this occasion, where you put out all these concepts, which on its own, on their own, you can say, okay, and on their own they could all make sense, but it's all disjointed. It doesn't make sense. So it goes on this thing where he talks about how football belongs to the poor, and football belongs to the poor because football comes from the poor. And the poor have no way of being happy because the rich can buy happiness. Especially happiness isn't something you buy, right? I mean, when you actually parse his words and not consider the fact that, Bielsa's saying them, they must be so wise. Also because he says them while looking down in a low voice and stuff, and he speaks slowly. His point is rich people can buy happiness. Poor people can't buy happiness. So football is the only way to happiness because it's free, or it was free. But now football's no longer fun. Football keeps getting worse. There are fewer and fewer players worth watching. And then he mentions Endrick moving to Europe, and he talks about the 92 Sao Paulo team, which had all these future Brazilian internationals. If you want to just limit it and just focus on the point you're saying that South America can't retain their talents, then that's true. That is a dynamic in football. South America, not just South America, Africa as well. At a young age, they get souped up, whatever, right? There's an argument he made there about globalization. But then he says artificial football's never been more popular, but those are artificially inflated audiences. Football's not a highlight package of 5 minutes. Football is cultural expression. I'm like, what are you on? Like, this is not communication. Like, no, give me one concept, follow your argument to the end.
And the fact the concept was that poor people can't go and watch matches because tickets are too expensive on television. It could be on cable TV, so they can't.
But that's not what he's talking about.
I know, but I thought at the start, that was the point that he was going to make, and then he went.
Oh my goodness!
On a tangent.
Honestly,
I know.
Like again, whatever. I would love it if he came and he spoke rationally and clearly, maybe away from a tournament where he's got religious correction. I'm very interested in what he has to say. But this stuff and the reaction from the audience, like, oh look, the wise man has spoken. No, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't follow. Sorry, just for me.
No.
I still like him.
True. I love him still.
Jules, we're coming to an end here. It's semifinal time. When we next convene here at Scaling Spaces,
on Thursday.
On Thursday, we'll be previewing the final. I am excited. Until then, love the game, love your neighbor, love yourself.